BuzzFeed.com posted the following article today, Friday, February 8th of 2019. It's titled, Candace Owens, quote, "If Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine," end quote. Owens' comments came during the invite-only London launch of a pro-Trump activist group. Mark DiStefano and Alex Spence, I guess they're the people who wrote this article, they're reporters for BuzzFeed News. Here's what they wrote. Pro-Trump activist Candace Owens told the audience at the closed-door London launch of a conservative organization, Turning Point, that it would have been quote, fine if Adolf Hitler, quote, just wanted to make Germany great, and that the problem with the Nazi dictator was that, quote, he had dreams outside Germany. BuzzFeed News unearthed Owens' December comments on Friday in a piece on the UK arm of Turning Point being in disarray after one of its star recruits walked out on the activist group within days of its official launch. The YouTube video posted last year shows Owens and Turning Point founder Charlie Kirk responding to more than an hour of questions from a hand-picked audience of conservative media and political figures at the private Royal Automotive Club near Buckingham Palace. Owens' comments about Adolf Hitler in Germany came after she was asked about, quote, nationalism in Western politics. Quote, "I actually don't have any problems at all with the word, quote, nationalism," Owens replied, quote, "I think that the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. Whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler," end quote. Quote, "He was a national socialist. But if Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine," end quote. Quote, "The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way," end quote, she said. Quote, "To me, that's not nationalism. And thinking about how we could go bad down the line. I don't really have an issue with nationalism. I really don't," end quote. Owens added, quote, "It's important to retain your country's identity, to make sure that's what's happening here, which I think is incredibly worrisome in terms of the decrease in the birth rate that we're seeing in the UK is what you kind of want to avoid," end quote. Quote, "I have no problem with nationalism," she said. Hitler's domestic policies led to the deaths of hundreds of thousands of German minorities. Jews in Germany were stripped of their citizenship, barred from owning businesses, and ultimately sent to concentration camps. BuzzFeed News contacted Owens and Turning Point for comment, but in a video she posted to Twitter on Friday, Owens sought to clarify her remarks and disputed the characterization she was defending Hitler's form of nationalism. Quote, "It's actually so insane and so ridiculous that it could only come from BuzzFeed, which is obviously a scum of the earth publication," she said. Wow, okay, so they posted a link to a video, and what was that website? It was on, I guess, Periscope TV, and her video was titled, "Was Hitler a Nationalist?" and "Leftist journalists are still insane." Just for the record, well, anyways, like I've been saying for years, conservatism is a mental disorder. These people are truly insane. Conservatives are a special brand of crazy. Let me go and finish reading this article. To you guys, because I had a couple other things to read to you that I got from Twitter. BuzzFeed went on to say, despite telling the London crowd that Hitler was, quote, a national socialist, Owens said in her video that he was not a nationalist, but instead a, quote, homicidal, psychotic maniac who was bent on world domination, end quote. Quote, "You wouldn't say he was nationalist because he wasn't about putting Germany first," end quote, she said. Quote, "There are German Jews that he was putting into camps and murdering," end quote. Quote, "If the only thing that Hitler wanted to do was stay in his country and say, quote, we're making Germany great again, and he wasn't a homicidal maniac, we'd be in an entirely different position today. But he was, and there's no excuse for a defense ever for everything that he did," end quote. Pause the article right there. if she really said this, it sounds like what she's actually saying is Donald Trump, and this, listen to me, okay? This is just what I'm getting from it. It sounds as if what she's saying is Donald Trump is Hitler if Hitler wasn't, you know, hell-bent on destroying Jews, blacks, and, you know, all the other people that he hated. It sounds like she's trying to make some sort of weird parallel between Hitler and Trump, but say that Trump is like the good version of Hitler, like in a movie or a comic book where they'll have like good Superman and bad Superman, or like good Venom and then like the bad version of Venom. This is so ridiculous. But remember, she is a swirler, so I don't really expect more from her. Let me go ahead and finish this stupid article. The article goes on to say, quote, BuzzFeed is crazy. Leftist journalists are crazy, and they're trying to make it seem like I said something I would never say, end quote, she said. Owens is considered one of the brightest. No, she's not. She's just a black puppet. Owens is considered one of the brightest stars among young American conservatives and has been endorsed by rapper Kanye West. Kanye West is trolling. 2 months after Owens and Kirk addressed the London crowd, Turning Point launched in Britain, with some of the country's most influential conservative MPs flocking to support the activist group, but internal tensions soon emerged. Well, I guess so. Look at the type of stuff that they're saying. This is just completely idiotic. Jesus freaking Christ, you guys. So that's the end of the article. Let me go ahead, before I give my full opinion, let me go ahead and read to you guys what I snagged off of Twitter to show you here. Some stuff that Candace Owens said and something that somebody else posted. Chelsea Clinton said the following on Twitter. Now, this was February 8th of 2019, so it's today. Chelsea Clinton, that's Bill and Hillary Clinton's daughter, said, "Good afternoon, Andrew. Ignorance about Hitler's evil regime must always be confronted. That burden should not fall on Holocaust survivors. There was nothing, using Candace Owens' own words, quote, great, about the Third Reich before it began annexing and invading its neighbors." So Candace Owens said, "Don't you ever in your miserable life have the audacity to tweet at someone who educating black folks on the nasty, racist, harmful, evil regime policies inflicted by your soulless mother and father. You're only saying that because they're so-called liberals, so-called Democrats. If a conservative president and his wife did what they did, Candace, you would never say those things." But anyways, Chelsea Clinton also went on to say, "Hi, Candace. I wish you a life full of love, health, and happiness. I love my parents. I'm also not my parents. Hope you have a wonderful rest of Friday and a great weekend." And here is a helpful resource from at Holocaust Museum. She posted a link to the encyclopedia.ushmm.org website. Candace said, "You don't get to separate yourself from the horrors your parents inflicted worldwide through the Clinton Foundation. You were on payroll, but wishing you a life full of love, health, and of course happiness. Hashtag lock her up." You really, so lock up. Can we lock you up too, Candace Owens? Anyways, so here's what somebody posted on Twitter that I snagged. Owens suggested that Trump, if he was involved in British politics, would have demolished Corbyn as a political opponent by giving the Labour leader a nickname similar to those he gave Hillary Clinton, quote, Crooked Hillary, and Ted Cruz, Lion Ted. Like Jew hater Jeremy, Kirk interjected. Owens laughed. Jew hater Jeremy. Asked by a member of the audience about nationalism in Western politics, Owen brought up Adolf Hitler, quote, "I actually don't have any problems at all with the word, quote, nationalism," Owen said, quote, "I think the definition gets poisoned by elitists that actually want globalism. Globalism is what I don't want. Whenever we say nationalism, the first thing people think about, at least in America, is Hitler. He was a national socialist," she continued, "but if Hitler just wanted to make a, excuse me, Freudian slip. If Hitler just wanted to make Germany great and have things run well, okay, fine. The problem is that he had dreams outside of Germany. He wanted to globalize. He wanted everybody to be German, everybody to be speaking German, everybody to look a different way. To me, It's not nationalism and thinking about how we could go bad down the line. I don't really have an issue with nationalism. I really don't. Yeah, I think this heifer is trying to compare Trump to Hitler and saying that Trump is just Hitler in like a parallel universe or something, or like new and improved Hitler. Like, listen, man, conservatives are going to be considered a terror group in the future. Mark my words. And it's really interesting because I remember back in the day, there were these flyers going around encouraging people to basically snitch on their neighbors. Like, hey, if you see your neighbor doing anything suspicious, like, it was just like really weird stuff. Like if they're pro-life, like against abortion, or I can't even remember. This is like hella long ago, but it was just like really, really dumb stuff. And at the time, I really didn't know what to think about it. I'm like, it's like they're trying to make conservatives. It's like they're trying to make conservatives out to be like terrorists or something like that. And I'm like, wow, like, well, how could they do that? And I'm like, is it because conservatives just have, you know, high morals and they just want what's best for people? You know, because I've never truly been like a liberal or a conservative. I always thought that, you know, that both quote unquote sides were just full of stupid people. And you know, I'm not white, so I'm not really truly allowed to be a liberal or a conservative, because I would just get used by either side. So what's the point? So I never really fell for the okie doke. But I remember these flyers going around, and they depicted conservatives as basically being terrorists and being these dangerous people that you had to look out for, watch out for, that you had to monitor, and they wanted people to report like things that they would see them do or whatever, or maybe even things that they heard them say. And it was really interesting to me because I'm like, well, what about liberal people? Like, but you gotta understand something. Like, as far as like an actual physical threat to national security, liberals don't really pose much of a threat. I mean, they're idiots, but man, conservatives are just, I mean, they're just so full of it. And a lot of things that they're saying are just flat out lies. And I'm sitting back thinking like, well, where the hell did they get their information from? Did they just like listen to conservative talk shows all day and conservative influencers and just take whatever they say for face value? Like, do they ever fact check? Like, for example, I was on Candace Owens' Twitter page and I saw this video, which, let me see. I don't know when this conversation took place, but she retweeted it July 6th of 2018. She said 990 black men were shot and killed by police, but only 16 of them were unarmed. So she said 990. And then I found an article on the HuffingtonPost.com website that said more than 250 black people were killed by police in 2016, updated. U.S. police killed at least 258 black people in 2016, according to a project by The Guardian that tracks police killings in America. So where the hell did Candace Owens get her figures from? You know, like, but you know, she is a conservative, so I don't really expect facts to come out of her mouth. Anyway, fast forward through the article. It says the Post found that 34% of the unarmed people killed in 2016 were black males. Now I'm on the Washington Post website. According to Fatal Force, 963 people, 963 have been shot and killed by police in 2016. I guess that includes all races. This database is based on news reports, public records, social media, and other sources. Okay, so yeah, from what I'm reading from multiple sources, 16 unarmed black men were killed by the police. But here's where you have to ask yourself, why did it happen at all? So I guess 16 is a small number. Those 16 lives don't matter when you're a conservative. Let me see how many police officers were killed in 2016. Let's see. According to Wikipedia, list of American police officers killed in the line of duty. Scroll down here. 2016. The Officer Down Memorial page reports 171 deaths in the line of duty. The National Law Enforcement Officers Memorial Fund counted 135 federal, state, local, tribal, and territorial officers killed. 64 officers were shot and killed and 21 were ambushed. So 64 officers were shot and killed in 2016. While according to Fatal Force, once again, 963 people in 2016, 963 were shot and killed by the police. Okay? But here's what y'all don't understand about these word games that conservatives are playing, because remember, conservatives are absolutely insane people. Just because somebody was armed when the police killed them does not mean that their gun was an illegal firearm. And just because they were quote unquote armed doesn't mean that they were necessarily armed with a weapon. They could have had a screwdriver, for example, because they're a carpenter, or a wrench because they're a plumber, when they were gunned down by the police. And the police could say that they were armed when they were actually doing their job, or coming from their job, or going to their job. Also, pretty much anything could be considered to be a weapon. If you're a baseball player and you get gunned down by the police on the baseball field and you have a bat or a ball, they could say that that was a weapon on the paperwork. You know, they could say he or she was threatening. And even though they weren't, just like how the police are always saying, somebody assaulted an officer, somebody, did something physical to an officer. Come to find out, they went to handcuff the person, and the person literally just turned their head and said something to the police. And since they moved, that movement was considered to be like resisting arrest and assault on an officer. Because what if you moved wrong and you hurt the officer's pinky, or sprained the officer's wrist because your jerking movement accidentally hurt the officer? Now, they can kill you, and that's excusable, but including shooting you in your back when you're unarmed or whatever. However, you making a movement and it breaking his nail or spraining his wrist or something like that, then that would be considered an assault on an officer. Or the fact that you moved at all, that's, you resisting arrest and assaulting an officer. Literally, there's been times where people were cuffed and they made one little movement, sometime not even trying to get away or anything like that, and they were considered to be somehow assaulting an officer. We've seen it over and over again. Anyway, back to that video that I saw on Candace Owens' Twitter page. So interesting. She said, you have a higher chance of being struck by lightning than being gunned down unarmed by a police officer. Now, I went and looked up how many people died from being struck by lightning in 2016, and 40 people died from being struck by lightning. But the thing is, she didn't say died by being struck by lightning. She just said being struck by lightning. This is, of course, an old conservative trick. Whenever somebody from their team, somebody who's, a white person, a white supremacist, somebody who's from one of the groups that they're protecting and covering for, messes up, what they'll say is, well, this is rare. So in other words, why are we talking about it at all? It doesn't happen often, so it's not an issue. The police shouldn't be killing anybody unarmed. The police shouldn't be killing anybody who's not a threat on their life. And notice I didn't say their personal safety, because their safety is debatable, like how much of a threat the person was, what type of threat they were and whatnot. So I'm saying as far as actual threats on their life, those are extremely rare. Not too many people are coming at police officers like that, and definitely not black guys trying to kill police officers. It is very, very rare. In fact, they have a better chance of being struck by lightning. But anyways, you guys, facts don't matter. One of these days, all of this lying is going to catch up to conservatives. Conservatives are full of crap. Almost everything that they say is a lie. And you can easily debunk just about everything that they say. But that's not what I'm going to do here today. I just want to let you guys know, man, these conservatives are out of their freaking minds. But this is all my quote-unquote opinion. Oh, before I go. Candace Owens, I guess he's her fiance or boy. I think he's her fiance, unless they got married. His name is George Farmer. He posted a tweet to the BuzzFeed article on his Twitter page. He said, If you're a conservative across the world and BuzzFeed hasn't done a hit piece, you're not doing your job properly. Hashtag BuzzFeed is a cancer. It's funny you would say that. You're confused. This idiot, no, sir, idiot. Conservatism is AIDS. If BuzzFeed is a cancer, conservatism is AIDS. And, you know, like, I'm a pro-lifer and stuff like that. And if I really explain to you guys what I really believe in, a lot of you would say, well, a lot of things that I believe are kind of conservative leaning. And I took a test about whether or not I was, you know, conservative or a liberal. You know, I wanted to know what in the world I was considered to be. Is I really don't know. You know, some people, I've been called a liberal. I've been called a conservative, but, you know, by people who don't know me, don't know shit about me. So with that said, I went and took a test and I made a video with the results. Basically, the results said that I'm in the middle. I'm not a conservative or liberal. What I think is actually not really left or right. But anyways, guys, I've been rambling for nearly 20 minutes. If you can listen to me, no, excuse me, over 21 minutes. Pardon me. If you can listen to me ramble like that, let me know what you think about it all below. Meat Magazine on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook, and MeWe. MeWe is a site that doesn't want your personal information. Matter of fact, let me tell you what they say on MeWe. Let me go there real quick, and I'm going to tell you what they have to say about themselves. Okay? They say, your private life is hashtag not for sale. No ads, no spyware, no BS. So anyway, shout out to MeWe. I'm on MeWe as Meat Magazine. I have a group on there and a personal profile. Anyways, let me know what y'all think about it below. Do you agree with what Candace the idiot had to say or nah? Let me know what you think about it all below. Meat Magazine on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and MeWe. Meat Magazine blog on Instagram. Thumbs up, comment, subscribe, click the notification button.